Can you hear me? Okay. So are we ready?
Sally, are we ready?
Okay. Jackson?
Yes. Yes, Allie.
I can't hear you, Jackson.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay.
Okay, Facebook and YouTube are both live, so we can start.
All right. Welcome, everyone. With that, we'll go ahead and start the June 17th, 2020 area plan meeting. A couple reminders first. Number one, I'd like to thank staff for putting this together again. This is our second time doing this, so please have some patience. We are technically professionals at this now. Also, a reminder to mute your microphone unless you are speaking. I will remind people if they have not to be rude, but just so that we don't hear the background noise. So please don't take offense if I have to do so. And then finally, have patience, and finally, a ballot reminder. The email that we complete the ballots was sent on Tuesday, the 16th at 12:36 p.m. from Diana. So if you would please have that readily available, and it is the bottom of that, as we'll have a couple items to vote on. So have that handy so that we can move this process along. Zach, with that, if you would go ahead and call the roll.
Okay, and remember to unmute yourself as I call your name. Jackson Bogan.
Here.
Carl Griffin. Absent. Tom Murtaugh.
Here.
Roland Winger.
Here.
Gary Schroeder.
Here.
Jake Gray. Absent. Tracy Brown.
Here.
Kathy Parker. Kathy, I thought I saw you here. Are you muted?
Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Lisa Dellum.
Here.
Perry Brown.
Here.
Gary Reynolds. Absent. Vicky Pearl.
Here.
Carla Snodgrass.
Here.
Diana Looper. Absent. Greg Jones.
Here.
Larry Leverins.
Here.
Michelle Long. Absent. And we do have a quorum. It looks like by my count, 1, 2, 3. I count 12 of us present tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you. With that, Sally, we'll move right to the briefing session.
Not much
here.
tonight. The rezone case is ready to be heard.
Thank you, Sally. On to the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the May 20th, 2020 meeting as submitted.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. On to new business. APC bylaw amendment resolution 2020-04.
I move to hear and approve APC bylaw amendment resolution 2020-04.
I second.
This bylaw amendment came out of concern that Plan Commission president or vice president ability to, in a timely way, sign any document that needed to be recorded, that it not hold up any development. So at a joint meeting of the bylaw committee and the ordinance committee, a decision was made to add to the bylaws under duties that when the president and vice president are not available to sign documents that need recordation, that either of the two county commissioners who are appointed to the Plan Commission would be authorized as designated officials to be able to perform that duty. And that way, if Larry or Jackson or any future president and vice president would not be available in a timely way to sign those documents, that we would have two other close at hand options to do that. So that's the purpose of the bylaw amendment, and it was unanimously recommended for approval by the Joint Bylaw and Ordinance Committee.
Thank you, Sally. This was, as you mentioned, this was discussed and unanimously voted on. Are there any questions from the commission? Okay. With that, we will go ahead and have a vote. We need to do a roll call vote on this. Zach, if you would, please.
All right, when I call your names, please signify your vote with a yes or no. Jackson Bogan.
Yes.
Carl Griffin is absent. Tom Murtaugh.
Yes.
Roland Winger.
Yes.
Gary Schroeder.
Yes.
Jake Gray is absent. Tracy Brown.
Yes.
Kathy Parker.
Yes.
Lisa Dillum.
Yes.
Perry Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Reynolds is absent. Vicky Pearl.
Yes.
Carla Snodgrass.
Yes.
Diana Looper, absent. Greg Jones.
Yes.
Larry Leverins.
Yes.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I have that as 12 votes in favor. And Mr. Bogan, we also have the written ballots on this in the links. So we'd ask now that the commission members go ahead and fill those out and submit those. And
Thank
Don
you.
will be monitoring that as they come in.
Thank you. The title is the APC Bylaw Amendment Resolution 2020-04. Don, if you'd let us know when those are tallied, please.
Okay. How long do you want me to wait? I have 11.
We have 11. Zach, are we capable of moving on and collecting that last one after the fact?
We are, I just, is anybody having issues with those now?
I am.
And I'm sorry, I missed.
Diana, are you able to find that ballot?
Yes, I can.
I got 12, approval.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. With that, I will now read a brief memo in regard to the meeting procedures. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedures, the Commission would like you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we are only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make comments or provide us with the information regarding any subdivision petitions will be given the opportunity to do so. When we are hearing a request for a change in zoning, we are trying to determine if the new zone being requested and the uses allowed in that zone are appropriate to that property and supported by the comprehensive plan. With each case being heard, our staff will present its report. Then the person requesting the rezone will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, those of you wishing to speak in favor of the rezone will be recognized, and those of you who wish to oppose it will have a turn. This will be your only time to speak. The person requesting the action will be allowed a rebuttal. Planning Commission members will then ask questions and finally vote. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. We are a 17-member body and a majority of 17 is 9. Regardless of how many commissioners are actually present, at least 9 votes in favor and 9 votes against are required for action to be official. If fewer than 9 of us agree to either approve or disapprove of the action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. Our vote on a request to rezone serves as a recommendation to the appropriate city council, town council, or county commissioners, who must ultimately decide on changes in zoning. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting is in session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the virtual room before using your phone. All exhibits presented to the commission become the property of the commission. With that, we'll move on.
I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application be heard this evening and become part of the evidence at such hearing, the unified zoning ordinance, unified subdivision ordinance, comprehensive plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on the application to be heard this evening, and responses from the checkpoint agency.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That carries. Rezoning activities.
Move to hear and approve Z 2783 Carr Family Farm LLC A to I3 with commitment.
A second.
Ryan, it's your show.
Okay, this is the desk. Can everyone hear me? And
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
okay, I'm assuming you can. All right, well, as you can see from the map, we are near the town of Dayton, just east of the interstate, just north of the interchange off of I-65. This is an I-3 rezone proposal with commitment, as seen in the staff report. This rezone request was continued in order to add this commitment from the February meeting. It is designed to prohibit the following uses that are normally permitted in the I-3 zone. And there are 9 of them listed in the staff report. They are confined feeding operations, ordnance and accessories except vehicles and guided missiles, SIC 348, taxi cabs, trash transfer stations, recycling collection facilities and recycling processing facilities, scrap and waste metal junkyards, motor vehicle parts used, truck stops, cemeteries, and truck tire mobile sales and service. Those uses are to be excluded if this commitment's approved with the rezone. The zoning history, it was originally zoned R1, but became agricultural in 1983 after the rezone of the Sheffield Township. As you can see, we've got I3 zoning to the west for SIA, I3 zoning to the south, A zoning everywhere else except to the northeast where we've got some AW zoning. The southern I3 rezones that are within the town limits occurred over a handful of years. There are 3 different rezones that established these I3 zones, starting in 2002, 2015, and a couple in 2018. So we've got a lot of rezone activity moving to this I3 zone. So the zone itself is not unusual in this immediate vicinity. So the site is outside of the town limits presently, and therefore, but it does have access to water from the town, but sewer, public sewer is currently not available. Dayton is anticipating on serving this area, the area south of Haggerty Lane, with public utilities. But before that any development could occur, the standard utility service agreement with the town would have to be approved. In terms of our comments, the town is presently finalizing its joint EDA TIF district with the county, and that area includes this rezone site. It's anticipated this site will be annexed by the town, but the process is still unfolding. So, and at the same time, staff is beginning work on a new comprehensive plan amendment for the town of Dayton to replace one that's almost 25 years old, to bring in this, not just these new areas the town's annexing, but also to look at other areas in the town, given so many years that perhaps need an update to their land use plan. So essentially, staff feels this rezone petition is premature, that we have some moving parts here that the town is interested in seeing completed, and they ultimately would like to be able to decide the zoning fate of this property, including any commitments that might be offered, whether it be this one or future ones, and that they feel, and staff agrees, that until the annexation is done and the comprehensive plan is amended, that rezoning land that's in flux like this is premature at best. So staff is recommending denial. Given the current land use plan for this area, staff could support a rezoning to the I1 district, which is light industrial. That would be fairly consistent with the existing land use future that's currently on record in the comp plan. So if the petitioner is willing to go that measure, staff would recommend approval to the light industrial. So that I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, we are recommending denial of the I3 with commitment. And we do have one letter recommending against, and I'd be happy to read that whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Ryan. Hold tight on that letter for now. Petitioner or petitioner's representative?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, Dan Teeter, attorney with Riley, Teeter and Schreier. I represent the petitioner. Guthrie Carr is available to answer any questions that you might have. He's one of the owners of the real estate. Kevin Bull is the realtor for petitioner, and he's going to make a few comments after my presentation. As staff's indicated, we're requesting rezone from A to I3 with a commitment. In my opinion, the commitment would prevent inappropriate uses on the site, and you need to remember that that commitment then runs with the land, so it's always there. I'd submit to you that I3 is an appropriate zone for this 98-acre tract, because we are bordered, as you see on the map, by Haggerty on the north, I-65 on the west, I3 on the south, future Yost Road on the east, and then further east is more farming area. This commission has recommended approval, and Dayton has approved I3 in this area, and I'll go through those again, even though staff kind of talked about them a little bit. The McCoy Group, which is a truck sales and service business, it has outside storage. McAllister Machinery, a large machine sales and service business, It too has outside storage. And then finally, Carr Family Farms, and this is between McAllister and McCoy, I-65 and State Road 38 to give you an idea where it is. Staff does give us a denial on this and says that it's based upon a 25-year-old amendment to the land use plan. You need to keep that in mind. That's 25 years old, but they would support I-1. It's my opinion that there's been many, many changes that have occurred in 25 years in this area. And I think that all those changes would cause an amendment to the land use plan to show this area to be I3 and would support our request that we have before you tonight. I also gave the staff some pictures, and hopefully they can put those up. I think it was important to show what we see would be coming to this area. So the pictures that I show are the new Toyota Tushu plant. It's 350,000 square feet. It's on Haggerty Lane. It's north of the SIA north entrance, and it's maybe a half a mile west of where we are today with our site. In my opinion, that building is an asset to the community, and as with our site, it's in an appropriate location for I3. The I3 zone is needed for outside storage because as this site, the pictures show, there's more than one picture. I've showed all four sides of it. If you could do that, it's going to be similar to, to me, anything that we build on this site will be similar to that, but we do need outside storage because we're going to have semi-trailers, as you see in this picture, will be sitting outside. And as a result, I-1 and I-2 does not permit outside storage. That's why we are requesting I-3. Again, I think our location fits the same purpose as that Toyota building that you see. We would suggest what we would build would be a similar type building or buildings. Perhaps they would be substantially smaller, but they, in my opinion, would all look like someone like that because they would be complementary to the SIA plant. We have great access to the north entrance of the SIA on Haggerty, and this is one of the main reasons that this area is so highly sought after. Yoast extension that they talk about is really not necessary for our development. We're going to do direct access from our site to Haggerty, so we really don't need Yoast. The other point I'd like to make is that with the push to have offshore critical manufacturing back in the United States, we need to have shovel-ready sites. The site selectors that come in for these industries demand that we're shovel-ready, which means that we've got zoning in place, and also means that we have environmental in place. Once they see that, they say, okay, you're shovel-ready, and they can normally make a decision within 30 days as to whether they're going to come in and develop something in that area. So that's why this is so critical for it. Our site, I think what you see to the west is a large section of I-65. Beyond that, you see million square feet of buildings for the SIA plant. So we're surrounded on two sides by the I-3, in my opinion. I want to briefly talk then a little bit about Dayton and this annexation. But last year Dayton said we want to stay small. We don't want to do anything. This year now they say they want to do an annexation. Well, we did an annexation out in Dayton on the south side, and it was a voluntary annexation. It took over 2 years to do it. So what I'm telling you is that this probably would not be voluntary at this point, because at least my client would like to see what's going to happen to this area, what's going to happen with the TIF. Are they really going to be able to improve Yoast? Are they really going to be able to improve the infrastructure for this? So as a result, in my opinion, the annexation is premature because we need the buildings that we're promoting and the I-3 in order to make the TIF work in this area work, because right now the tax assessment in that area is maybe $1,000 or so, in the thousands anyway. If we have a larger building in there, it's going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as a result, if we have that, we're going to be able to implement the TIF and they're going to be able to do things out there like Yoast and the improvements that they have. So in my opinion, our zoning is appropriate. We would have an attractive building similar to what you see at Toyota. We're not invasive. It's going to be a minimal impact on the surrounding area, and I think it would be a great asset to the community. I would respectfully request a favorable recommendation, not only for the rezone, but also for the commitment. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Teeter. Do we have any questions from the commissioners or commission?
So do we know, so the plan is for Dayton. Dayton does want to annex this land eventually. Is that correct?
Well, no, I don't know. They're saying if it's rezoned, they're not going to annex it. So
okay.
I don't think, to me, they have a non-exclusive agreement with the city of Lafayette for water and sewer. It's not exclusive. So if they say, hey, we're not going to annex, so we're not going to give you water and sewer, that to me says Dayton agrees that we're not non-exclusive. And if we're non-exclusive, we can go other places to get water and sewer. There's water on the north side of Haggerty, and there's sewer about, I don't know, a few hundred feet north of that where that water is. So there's other availabilities in which to get water and sewer to this site.
Do we have any other questions?
Did that answer your question? I guess I need to ask.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions from the commission. We will take a minute pause for citizens' comments.
We also have a letter to read.
Actually, great point. Thank you, Ryan. If you would go ahead and read the letter first.
Okay. The letter is from Ron Kohler, president of the Dayton Town Council. It reads, Dear Area Plan, the town of Dayton is in the progress of annexation and TIF district. That includes the parcels identified in the rezone request, Z2783 by the Carr Family Farm LLC. We anticipate both to be finished in the near future. The Dayton Town Council respectfully requests this rezone request be denied, or that consideration of this request be delayed until the annexation is complete and the parcels fall under the town of Dayton's jurisdiction. It must be noted that the 1996 Second Amendment to the adopted land use plan for Dayton and vicinity encompassed in part the land in the future annexed area and recognized the interjurisdictional nature of the area at that time. But even then, it observed the following on page 7, and there's 2 quotes here. The first is, requests to rezone land within the study area will be carefully measured against this amendment with regard to both its development sectors and the goals underlying them. Second quote, requests to rezone land for development purposes must be accompanied with written assurance of sanitary sewer availability. Requests in advance of or prior to the extension of sanitary sewer are premature. Your staff report refers to the agreement between Lafayette and Dayton. By this agreement, Dayton will serve the area with utilities. There has been no discussion or planning with the petitioner. Dayton will not provide utilities to a development that is not in the town's best interest. Accordingly, it is Dayton's request that we be the ultimate decision maker in this rezone request. Yours truly, Ron Kohler, President, Dayton Town Council.
Thank you very much. We will now pause and wait for citizens' comments through the different means that we have.
Jason, this is Kevin Bowl. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was working. I guess my only comments was I was involved in the Toyota Two-Shoe project and have been involved in a couple others recently. And there's quite a few requests right now from other developers and so forth for this area. But the one thing that we're seeing is when they ask for sites to be submitted, they've got, like Dan said, they've got to be shovel ready. If they're not, ready to go and ready to roll, they won't even hit the list. And a good example of that, and this site was considered, I think it was Five Below was looking for an 850,000 square foot facility I forget the acreage, 90 or 100 acres. And we discussed this site, but because of where it sits at this point as far as zoning, utilities, and everything else, it didn't even make the list. It ended up going to Frankfurt. The part of the car site behind this plant was also considered, but ultimately they went to Frankfurt because everything was ready to go. That's since been put on hold due to this virus and may or may not come back in the fall. But I think the site's not going to be seriously considered at this point by a lot of people unless it is right at shovel ready. We got the same scenario kind of with the Rowe property. It's a great location, everything else, but it's hard to get it put on the list.
Thank you very much for that. Have there been any comments, Ryan?
We have no comments.
Petitioner, would you like to rebuttal for the letter? Dan, we cannot hear you. You're on mute.
I apologize. I didn't think I was one of those guys, but I guess I am. So I apologize for that. Yeah, I mean, what I've said before, I guess I want to reiterate a little bit in that the county and Dayton, in my understanding, are trying to do or in the process of a TIF district out there. And in order to make the TIF district successful, you have to have tax assessment, and it has to be more than just farmland, or it has to be more than a park, or it has to be more than even NB, because those are some of the things that Dayton's talked about. And I think they've got plenty of other areas on this extended Yost Drive for those type of developments. I think where we are here, I mean, we've got the state of Indiana, we got I-65, we got SIA, and we got I-3 below us. I don't see how we affect negatively anybody in the area, and what we do is have the ability to make the TIF district work. Without that and having larger tax assessments, the TIF district isn't going to work. The other thing they talk about is on water and sewer, and they're saying, they said that, but in their website it says, hey, if we don't annex, then we don't have to provide water and sewer. And in my opinion, what they're saying is then, in my opinion, is that it's a non-exclusive agreement, which then I would say allows us to go to other people. If that's not the case, and that would say that they could hold up any development, it's absurd. It makes absolutely no sense that you can do that. You need to have the ability to have water and sewer if somebody's not going to provide for you. And I think that would be the law, and I think that would be accurate. So, you know, if Dayton one day they say they want to annex, fine. The next day they say no because they want to control. In other words, they don't want to have the I-3. They want to have the NV out there, which doesn't work. We are not in the town limits. I don't think the town should control what we want to do. When we saw what happened to the south, and it took over 2 years to do an annexation, that was voluntary, and this won't be. So heaven only knows when this will occur. So to me, I think what we're proposing is very reasonable. It's promoting good things for the Tippecanoe County and for the area, for everybody concerned. I don't think there's anything negative out there with it. And with that, again, we would ask for your favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Teeter. Any questions from the commission members?
Hi.
This is Ron.
Hello.
Go ahead, Carla.
Yeah. Hi. I don't really have any questions. I just have a couple of things that I'd like to say, if that's okay. So if I'm out of step, I apologize. I'm kind of new to all of this, with the APC for sure. Being new to the council, being new to the commission, even with that, I'm still familiar with what's been going on out at Dayton. I live out here, of course, and one, I completely agree with the letter that was sent by the council back in February. that this should be held off until we are able to get the annexation completed. It's that process has been hampered because of the COVID-19 restrictions. But I know that the other council members would like to see this process through as soon as possible. And so we just feel like the time for the rezoning is not now, but to wait until after it's annexed. So then we would have some say over the rezoning. We don't want to necessarily tell them no. We're just saying we want to have some say in what's going to go out there. That's at the edge of town. We're looking at the TIF district and how we want our town to appear as people enter in and what they see, and also beneficial to the town. So I just feel like doing it at this time is not in the best interest for Dayton at all. And so that's what I have to say. And I just feel like that the council and many of the residents for sure feel that we want to wait until the annexation is completed. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments or questions from the commission?
Gary here for the comment. It just seems to me like, I hear they want to hold off for Dayton to take a look at that. The TIF districts are important, and it just seems like that can still happen after the rezone. That seems like a well-positioned site for industrial development with what surrounds it. And it's pretty valuable not only to Dayton, but to the community to provide growth, tax income, jobs. And sometimes development goes in cycles. And I think that moving forward today is probably better than waiting. That they can get that on the list for development and make it happen. So I'd be in favor of the rezone, and it seems like they can next afterwards if they want to, but to get that moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. President, this is Roland Winger.
Yes, sir.
I'd aim this question to staff, Sally or Ryan. You've noted in the report and in your comments today that because the comprehensive plan did not necessarily anticipate density or use as high as I-3 for this area back when it was drafted 25 years ago, a lot of I-3 has come into this area, has been noted. Obviously, a massive amount on the west side of the interstate, but even there off of 38 to the south of this property, we rarely have property that is organized so well in considerations and going from A to I-3 than one like this that's bordered on two sides by an interstate, which is obviously ideal for industrial zoning. So my question is, in particular, other than the fact that the plan is due for an update, the comprehensive plan there, has there been anything particular about the I-3 that has been zoned I-3 in recent years, or the properties to the south of this, that would say that I-3 really isn't what should be considered for this area?
There's a lot in that question, Roland. I can tell you that every time there was a request for I-3 zoning, staff was consistently said, this isn't what the plan envisioned, it isn't what the town envisioned, and yet the rezones were approved by the town. So I'm not sure I can tell you if that represents that there was a shift in the thinking of the town council. There may have been a shift in the thinking of the town council at the time, and maybe this town council has different thoughts. We probably were, as a staff, were more concerned about the McAllister rezone on the east side of proposed Yost Drive, because that was east of Yost Drive. The current plan suggests that maybe there would be facilities and growth that would act as sort of a buffer between industrial development west of Yost Drive and the existing town. In terms of an update to the plan, we would be largely guided by the interest of the town, but also keeping in mind that there is a TIF district in this area. For the TIF district to work, there has to be development, and it can't be residential. A town park might be desirable, which the initial plan contemplated for part of it, but it would not benefit the TIF district. I do know that the town's concerned about their 20% share of the extension of Yost Drive to Haggerty Lane. Personally, I believe that the TIF funds in the TIF district would help the town be able to meet their 20% match for Yost Drive construction. Right now it has a contract for engineering of that, but we're a number of years away from actual construction. Does that help or just confuse the issue?
No, thank you. That's informative. And to clarify, is the agricultural zone, which would appear to be at least 90 acres, if this is 97, if not more, directly to the east of the property in question, is that and the R1 to the south of it, that borders the I-3 to the south there, are those properties both in consideration for the annexation?
I'm sorry, Roland, consideration for what?
For the annexation?
Oh, yes, they are.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have one question if I could. In regard to timing of annexation, meaning I think petitioner stated that it would likely not be a voluntary annexation. So if it's not voluntary, how long does the non-voluntary annexation process take?
Sally, can you field that one?
Only in part, and we may ask Zach to weigh in if he knows. I do know that a involuntary annexation takes longer and there are many more hoops to go through. It's not impossible. It's just a slightly different process.
Zach, do you care to comment?
I was going to try and do some quick research. No, we've done annexations for municipal clients in the past. The law is changing, usually yearly. I can't give you guys any kind of guidance on that, and I wouldn't be the right person to even try and guess, just because, my limited experience with annexations are that regardless of whether they're voluntary or involuntary, there's going to be lots of steps, lots of consultants, lots of people who are going to have their own timelines on everything. And I can't give you guys any kind of guidance on that. I wouldn't have any idea.
Mr. President, may I make a comment?
Certainly, Mr. Teeter.
I think if it's voluntary and everything went perfect, you could probably get it done in 9 months or so. If it's involuntary, and that was part of the argument on the one on the south, was they didn't like the fiscal plan of the petitioner, so there was a lawsuit filed on that. So that ended up taking, with a lot of other things, at least 2 years. And I think that's part of the issue that everybody, at least my petitioner, is concerned on this north side, is the fiscal plan. In order for this annexation to work, there has to be a fiscal plan in place that can be completed. So that means you got to have police and fire, water and sewer, and again, without having a tax base or tax assessment, I think that that's going to cause problems and cause the annexation to take a lot longer, because people are not going to say that they like the fiscal plan that's been drawn up by the town, because it's, at this point, I don't see how it can work without having more tax assessment in the area.
Thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President, this is Carla Snodgrass, and I just want to address something that Mr. Teeter said, just
Sure.
to clarify. On the south end of town, and the reason that it took so long for the rezone had nothing to do with the annexation. The area that he's referring to had already been annexed into town, and the issue was in regards to the zoning and following through with the fiscal plan and not having that clarified. So it had nothing to do with whether it was annexed prior to or after the rezone. I just wanted that clarified. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Questions, comments? And Ryan, one final ask. Do we have any citizens' comments?
Let me check. No social media comments right now.
Thank you very much. With that, we have 2 votes. And the first will be on the commitment. The second will be on the rezone. So Zach, if you want to do a roll call, we will go ahead and vote on the first commitment.
Okay. So when I call your name, if you are in favor of the commitment, and this first vote is just on the commitment, which is restricting certain uses, and this has to be accepted by us before it can be allowed. So this is just to limit those uses discussed in the report. When I call your name, if you are in favor, say yes. If you are against the commitment, say no. Jackson Bogan.
Yes.
Tom Murtaugh.
Yes.
Roland Winger.
Yes.
Gary Schroeder.
Yes.
Tracy Brown.
Yes.
Kathy Parker.
Yes.
Lisa Dullum. Lisa, you might be on mute.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Carrie Brown.
Yes.
Vicky Pearl.
Yes.
Carla Snodgrass.
Yes.
Diana Luper, are you here? Diana?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Greg Jones.
Yes.
And Larry Leverance.
Yes.
Okay, so there are 13 votes in favor of allowing the commitment. If you folks would mind filling out those written ballots just so we can get that done before we move on to the next one.
Don, if you'd let us know when those are in, please.
Will do. We have 13 responses, all for approval.
Thank you very much. We will now move to the vote for the rezone with commitment. from A to I3.
Okay, so when I call your name, if your vote is in favor, please signify with yes. If you are against the rezone, please signify with no. Jackson Bogan,
Yes.
Tom Murtaugh,
Yes.
Roland Winger,
Yes.
Gary Schroeder,
Yes.
Tracy Brown,
Yes.
Kathy Parker,
Yes.
Lisa Dillon,
No.
Perry Brown,
Yes.
Vicky Pearl,
Yes.
Carla Snodgrass,
No.
Diana Looper,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
No.
Larry Leverance.
Yes.
All right, there are 10 votes in favor, 3 votes against. If you folks wouldn't mind filling out those ballots, and let's get those done and make sure Don has all those.
Once again, Don, after they've been tallied, please let me know.
Thank you very much.
We have 13 responses, 10 yes and 3 no. Oh,
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teeter. We'll move on to administrative matters.
I don't have anything to bring up tonight.
We will move on to approval of the July Executive Committee agenda. And there are no new submissions, so those are 2 down. We'll move on to determination, and we are finished with that one. And we will move to the director's report. Back to you, Sally.
I don't have anything really to add to what I emailed to you today. I do want to officially welcome Carla Snodgrass as Dayton's new representative. She and I have arranged to meet on Monday afternoon, and we'll do the standard new APC member orientation. But she handled our technology admirably tonight, I thought. So unless you have any questions, I don't have anything to add to the written report.
Thank you and welcome, Carla. I look forward to meeting you in person whenever that day may come, hopefully sooner rather than later. We will move to citizens' comments and grievances. Do we have any that we know of? If not, we will wait 1 minute for the social media aspect.
Brian says there's nothing yet, but we will give people a little chance to type in any responses.
Thank you.
And we have no further comment.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schroeder, we'll take that motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all. Greatly appreciate it. Well done.
Yes, good
job,
meeting.
Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Everyone.